My name is Makai Hall, and I was in the Columbine High School library on April 20th, 1999. I was injured in the shooting by a shotgun blast that punctured my lower right leg, and some shotgun pellets entered my chest and my face. The gunfire was just so loud. And I didn't get much time to think about it because I think one of the first couple shots that they took were at our table. And so, that first volley hit my right leg and the side of my face and my chest. And so I immediately was just in abject pain. And the only thing I think that I could sense was, I'm gonna die. They're gonna come up and shoot me in the head. So, I laid there for a little bit and, just hoping that they wouldn't come near. I can remember Patrick trying to administer first aid on my leg, and in doing that, he raised up a little bit, and, I witnessed him being shot in the head. And so after that, I just think I tried to play dead. After the school shooting, I got into this cycle where it was like it was on repeat, and all I could think about was how bad it was for me and how horrifying it was. For the first, couple years after the shooting, the images of the shooting were, pretty clear, and the violence of it, seeing people maimed and hurt and dead, those things, kind of, it took a while for them to leave. And then after that, it kind of became this thing where, I don't want to say like something that'll offend other people, but for me, it was like a selfish thing. It was like, this happened to me, and so I deserve this. You know what I mean? And I know that's not everybody's circumstance. I think for me, it was true, that I couldn't get over the fact that I had gone through something, and I felt like the world owed me something. I think for a long time I tried to play that off like it wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't speak about it much, and but it had a big effect. I was young. I was a boy, and so that made a big impression. It created a lot of fear, which I kind of had to work through. I think the last time that I had a really bad episode like that was after Sandy Hook, and it was, those thoughts all come back, like why do these things still happen, and what causes them? Like we have to fix this. I feel like it set me back 5 to 10 years, in like how a typical young man would develop. I was very depressed, very angry, and not quite able to, I think, achieve the goals that I really would have liked to maybe sooner. I think even before everything happened, I may have been heading down the road of alcoholism is specifically what I've struggled with. I can remember being young and going to high school parties before the shooting and not really being able to control the amount of alcohol that I ingested. And so after that happened, I had this great excuse to kind of go wild. And I found that it temporarily fixed things. Like it killed the fear. It made me feel safe. And I kind of ran with that, and to the point where I got sick. My mom called me up one day, and I had woken up out of a blackout, and she was like, "You're going to rehab." And I was like, don't do that. Don't send me to rehab. And I looked through the phone book for a chapter of AA, and started attending 12-step meetings. And that, to be honest with you, really helped me to think about things like fear, that recovery process, staying sober. The alcohol really didn't help at all. If I was to say that anything stunted my development, it probably was alcohol.
It really makes you feel good to think of the human compassion and how everyone came together to help us out.
I remember, I think after the Columbine thing, visiting the hospital a lot and going to see people that I knew, and obviously being at the hospital for a little bit. And I remember, admiring healthcare personnel and providers, and always thought that was something that, I could possibly do. Welcome to work, everyone. Thank you for being here today. And starting to work at in the capacity of like a CNA or a nurse, my train of thinking was always focused on other people, and that I, in a way, relieved kind of some of that suffering. There's the part that I feel I'm able to comfort somebody, but I also, have been able to be comforted by being able to serve in that capacity, I think. Unfortunately, violence, happens in many people's lives. It's an unfortunate thing, but part of the comfort that I draw from it, and part of the comfort that I think some of the patients that I've had have experienced, is that there's a common thread, and that to say something simple about it would be to say that I can listen. I can listen to what your story is. Oh, that's strange.
And they spread it over bacon. Hi, monkey. Little peanut.
I'm married. That's important. I have 3 kiddos, Grace, Miley, and Clara. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
What is Bravo Leeson running?
I don't want to transmit my fear onto them. I wish they could live like I did before Columbine, where, school is a safe place to go, and there's no need to have a crippling fear about going out and living your life. I have gotten out of that cycle of putting things on repeat in my brain, and now I've got this family, this thing going on, that I put my energy into, and it's been probably the best thing I've ever done. And I think, I don't know if you'd ask my kids, sometimes I'm pretty strict, but I think their experience is a good one. And instead of putting like the trauma on repeat, I more think about, all right, well, what kind of experience is my kiddo having? Can I improve that? How can I stimulate them to think about this? Or how can I encourage them to learn about this? If you find yourself after an experience like this, or having experienced violence, in a bad place, that it's not hopeless, that there's a way to kind of come back to the light. And I think I was telling you the other day, I'm not insane and I'm not dead, which I'm very grateful for, because I think it can go that way, but if anything, you can find some meaning in tragedy.